Hello. So in this video, I'm primarily going to be reading Alan M. Garber's recently published essay, The Promise of American Higher Education. This is going to be a more political video than I typically do on this channel, but we are at a point in the structure of higher ed, the history of higher education, where that is being forced on us, whether we wanted it or not. So Garber is the president of Harvard, and Harvard has recently faced a demand from the Trump administration. Essentially, so there was a number of things, but the one that I know of specifically was basically to purge faculty, staff, and students with whom the presidential administration politically disagrees. Now, Harvard is a private institution. They have the right to employ whatever faculty they want, whatever staff they want. They have the right to admit whatever students they want. Harvard does receive funding from the federal government, basically in exchange for research done. Now, this is actually a really important thing that I think a lot of Americans don't understand, because we live in a hyper-capitalist country and we have this ideology of businesses are so amazing and great and whatnot. And because of the fact that technological breakthroughs, medicinal breakthroughs, scientific breakthroughs tend to be marketed by corporations, we believe that corporations do that discovery. That's often not the case. Particularly since the end of World War II, I would wager that the majority of scientific, medical, technological breakthroughs have been discovered at public expense, through public funding, whether that's through the military, which does have its own branches of research, whether that's through organizations like NASA, which is of course a public institution, or whether that's through universities. Massive amounts of discoveries, knowledge, science, medicine, etc. are discovered at universities, often through publicly funded research. And without the institutions of higher education, the United States would not have become a world technological leader the way that we did in the post-World War II period. And the fact that the Trump administration is currently attempting to dismantle higher education, or specifically any higher education that challenges its narrow, provincial, stupid worldview, is going to be detrimental to the intellectual future of the United States, both because the resources for new discoveries will not exist, but also because we will experience brain drain. We are already experiencing brain drain, where our best and brightest thinkers, minds, educators, etc., recognize that what we as educators do is fundamentally under threat politically, and so they leave. We know this to be the case. We've already seen this starting to happen. Now, I am very hopeful by Harvard's response to the administration's, frankly, illegal demands. It is violation of Harvard's First Amendment rights. I am very hopeful because of Harvard's response, which basically was, the short version is they told the Trump administration to suck an egg. I think part of the reason, without being privy to the internal politics of this, I'm sure there's a substantial element of this where Harvard said we have an intellectual responsibility, and we have a historical responsibility to the traditions of Harvard to maintain free and open inquiry, to not allow our institution to be politically dominated by the forces of anti-intellectualism, etc., etc. But I imagine another big component of this was Columbia kowtowed when the Trump administration said, you must do these things or you will lose your funding. Columbia complied. And what we saw with Columbia was exactly what we always see with authoritarian regimes when they make demands of individual institutions, is the response was, okay, you can keep your funding for now, but there will be further demands. You will have to comply further. This is part of what we expect, what we would figure would happen with an authoritarian or a fascist or a totalitarian government. That you can never prove your loyalty. You can only temporarily establish your loyalty. And I imagine that has played a big part in Harvard saying, we're not going to agree. We're not going to give in and compromise our values and sacrifice the members of our community. And I believe now that I've heard, I haven't seen this officially reported, which is more a reflection on my news consumption in the past couple of days than anything else. But I believe the Big Ten has sort of banded together now and basically come up with a self-defense pact, which in the United States, universities shouldn't need a self-defense pact against governmental interference. But there we are. This is where we happen to be as a country, unfortunately. So anyway, I want to read this to you, The Promise of American Higher Education. Dear members of the Harvard community, for 3/4 of a century, the federal government has awarded grants and contracts to Harvard and other universities to help pay for work that, along with investments by the universities themselves, has led to groundbreaking innovations across a wide range of medical, engineering, and scientific fields. These innovations have made countless people in our country and throughout the world healthier and safer. In recent weeks, the federal government has threatened its partnership with several universities, including Harvard, over accusations of anti-Semitism on our campus. These partnerships are among the most productive and beneficial in American history. New frontiers beckon us with the prospect of life-changing advances, from treatments for diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and diabetes, to breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, quantum science, and engineering, and numerous other areas of possibility. For the government to retreat from these partnerships now risks not only the health and well-being of millions of individuals, but also the economic security and vitality of our nation. Late Friday night, the administration issued an updated and expanded list of demands, warning that Harvard must comply if we intend to maintain our financial relationship with the federal government. It makes clear that the intention is not to work with us to address anti-Semitism in a cooperative and constructive manner. Although some of the demands outlined by the government are aimed at combating anti-Semitism, the majority represent direct governmental regulation of the intellectual conditions at Harvard. I encourage you to read the letter to gain a fuller understanding of the unprecedented demands being made by the federal government to control the Harvard community. I'll put a link to the letter down below, by the way. They include requirements to audit the viewpoints of our student body, faculty, staff, and to reduce the power of certain students, faculty, and administrators targeted because of their intellectual or their ideological views. We've informed the administration through our legal counsel that we will not accept their proposed agreement. The university will not surrender its independence or relinquish its constitutional rights. The administration's prescription goes beyond the power of the federal government. It violates Harvard's First Amendment rights and exceeds the statutory limits of the government's authority under Title VI, and it threatens our values as a private institution devoted to the pursuit, production, and dissemination of knowledge. No government, regardless of which party is in power, should dictate what private universities can teach, whom they can admit and hire, and which areas of study and inquiry they can pursue. Our motto, Veritas, or truth, guides us as we navigate the challenging path ahead. Seeking truth is a journey without end. It requires us to be open to new information and different perspectives, to subject our beliefs to ongoing scrutiny, and to be ready to change our minds. It compels us to take up the difficult work of acknowledging our flaws so that we might realize the full promise of the university, especially when that promise is threatened. We have made it abundantly clear that we do not take lightly our moral duty to fight anti-Semitism. Over the past 15 months, we've taken many steps to address anti-Semitism on our campus. We plan to do much more. As we defend Harvard, we will continue to nurture a thriving culture of open inquiry on our campus, develop the tools, skills, and practices needed to engage constructively with one another, and broaden the intellectual and viewpoint diversity within our community. Affirm the rights and responsibilities we share, respect free speech and dissent, while also ensuring that protest occurs in a time, place, and manner that does not interfere with teaching, learning, and research, and enhance the consistency and fairness of disciplinary processes, and work together to find ways consistent with law to foster and support a vibrant community that exemplifies, respects, and embraces difference. As we do so, we will also continue to apply with Students for Fair Admissions v. Harvard, which ruled that Title VI of the Civil Rights Act makes it unlawful for universities to make decisions on the basis of race. These ends will not be achieved by assertions of power unmoored from the law to control teaching and learning at Harvard and to dictate how we operate. The work of addressing our shortcomings, fulfilling our commitments, and embodying our values is ours to define and undertake as a community. Freedom of thought and inquiry, along with the government's long-standing commitment to respect and protect it, has enabled universities to contribute in vital ways to a free society and to healthier, more prosperous lives for people everywhere. All of us share a stake in safeguarding that freedom. We proceed now, as always, with the conviction that the fearless and unfettered pursuit of truth liberates humanity, and with faith in the enduring promise that America's colleges and universities hold for our country and our world. Sincerely, Alan M. Garber.